Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the committee for the honor of being here today. I'm Mark Brownstein. I'm Associate Vice President and Chief Counsel of the U.S. Climate and Energy Program at the Environmental Defense Fund, and I lead Environmental Defense Fund's work on issues surrounding natural gas. And from the perspective of the Environmental Defense Fund, we see at least two environmental advantages to natural gas. First, the current supply and price of natural gas is playing a central role in forcing our nation's oldest and dirtiest, least efficient coal-fired power plants into retirement, and we think that's a good thing. Natural gas can also play a role in helping to integrate renewables into the grid. It's certainly not the only thing that's required to integrate renewables into the grid. It may not even be the most important thing, but it does play a role there. But while we acknowledge the opportunity that natural gas provides, we must also be clear-eyed about the risks. First, unconventional gas development is a complex, resource-intensive industrial process. And like any industrial process, there are significant risks to public health and the environment that are inherent to natural gas development. Second, we must take necessary steps to reduce these risks. Second, we must also take steps to reduce waste. Natural gas is primarily made of methane. Methane is a powerful greenhouse gas pollutant, and small leaks of methane can result in undoing much or all of the greenhouse gas benefit we think we're getting when we substitute natural gas for coal or oil. Finding and fixing leaks is good for the environment, but it's also good for the economy because this is a precious natural resource and we should be doing all that we can to husband it for constructive use. We currently do a poor job at monitoring these leaks right now, and therefore I think that we do a poor job of finding and fixing these leaks. After all, as the adage says, you can't manage what you don't measure. Finally, to reduce risks and fix leaks, it will take a combination of federal, state, and local regulation and enforcement. And we can talk more about the balance there, but we do think that there's a constructive role, has been, for all levels of government and continues to need to be a constructive role for each level of government. And finally, we also believe that industry should form regional centers of excellence to develop and share best practices and to hold themselves accountable through a transparent auditing process to those best practices. Voluntary standards are not a substitute for regulation, but they can be an important complement to regulation. We've seen that in other industries, and we think it's applicable here as well. Thank you.
I have a question, if I could.
Sure.
Mr. Brownstein, I'd like anybody to respond to the comments about steps to reduce environmental impacts. I think that everyone before you testified that they were taking many steps to reduce environmental impacts, and I think that the people that testified before you indicated that they weren't all voluntary, that they were under regulations of regions and states. I don't know, Mr. Davidson or Mr. Williams, would you all just like to respond to what was said? Do you all have voluntary requirements or do you have mandatory requirements?
Well, Senator, we certainly have numerous state requirements.
Requirements, not volunteer.
No, that govern air emissions, for instance, such as air emissions.
I mean, I'm looking at this list here. I just think it's important for this roundtable. This is from the state of Pennsylvania. Natural gas, oil and gas well regulations, project development requirements in Pennsylvania, and there are 8 steps that are taken with multiple regulations. And just to read off some of those, Army Corps of Engineer regulations, Pennsylvania Department of Conservation regulations, Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection regulations, the Environmental Assessment, Environmental Protection Agency, Federal Endangered Species Act, Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Transportation. I mean, do you not think these regulations are mandatory? Are you testifying that they're voluntary?
Oh, no, Senator, please don't misunderstand me. I think I said in my comments that there is a currently existing web of federal, state, and local
I
regulations.
think web is a good word.
That applies to the industry. What I'm suggesting, Senator, is that production practices in this industry are very dynamic. They're changing all the time, and there are and both regulators and industry should be embracing a culture of continuous improvement. And we think that centers of excellence can be one way in which industry can embrace a spirit of continuing improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Let's keep going around the table then. Ms. Mall?